All right, so our next review topic is going to be on slope and slope-intercept form for today. In general, we're going to do 2 classes on writing equations of lines. Just a reminder, last class we talked about solving equations and inequalities. The homework there was the Math Excel, and it is due on Thursday. So if you haven't done your work from last class on um, equations and inequalities and the Math Excel that goes with that, make sure you get that done before you start this part. All right, today is writing equations of lines part 1. There is a new Math Excel open now if you want to do it, but it's not actually due on this particular set of notes until Tuesday. And then we'll start a new section on Friday. Okay, so let's talk about slope and slope-intercept form. What the heck is slope? As a reminder, slope is how steep your line is. And we can find that a bunch of different ways. We can find the rise over the run. We can find the change in y. That's what that little triangle means, change in y over change in x. And we find that change by taking the subtraction. So y1 minus y2, x1 minus x2. Now, how do we find that slope? Well, if it's in an equation, we're looking for the number before the x variable. That will always be our slope. So I have 2 examples here, and you can see the number before the x variable here is 3. The number before the x variable here is negative 1/3. Notice the slope does not always have to come first. It just has to be by the x amount. We usually use the variable m to show our slope, and I'll talk more about that when we write the equation. But we might write in these particular examples m equals 3 or m equals negative 1/3. Now, how do you find slope on a graph? Well, you pick any 2 points and you count how many spaces up or down, that's your rise, and then how many spaces left or right, that's your run. You write those as a fraction, rise over run. Some of you had a little hard time remembering positive and negative directions when we did slope. So just a couple of reminders. If you count up or if you count to the right, those are positive numbers. If you count down or to the left, those are negative numbers, which means if we want a total positive slope, if our m is positive 3, we need to either go up and right or down and left because that will give me a positive fraction. If I have a negative slope, like negative 1/3, then I need to go up and left or down and right because that'll give me a negative total fraction. So some of you had a little hard trouble about that when we did slope and slope-intercept form. So just kind of keep that in mind, how to find a positive slope fraction and a negative slope fraction. All right. Let's talk about slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M being the slope. We already talked about slope quite a bit already this section. And then B is your y-intercept. So remember, y-intercept is where the graph crosses your y-axis. That's why it's called y-intercept. And when we write it out in coordinate form, it's going to be the point. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. It's going to be the point 0, comma b, or 0, comma a number value. The x value always has to be 0 if we want the y-intercept. So if it was 0, comma 4, 0, comma negative 2, those would be y-intercept points because they have the 0 for the x amount. All right, you'll see 3 different kinds of slope-intercept problems. First, you might have a graph where you have to find the m, remember where you count up and over. And you have to find that y-intercept point, or that point where it crosses the y-axis, and then you're going to plug those into your y equals mx plus b equation. You might be given m and b, so it might say m is this and b is this, and you just plug those in the equation. And then you might be given some points and have to find the slope, so you'd have to do x1 or y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, and then use your y-intercept point. Remember, in this example, it's negative 6 to write your y equals mx plus b. Remember, whenever you write an equation, if that's what the directions say, write an equation, you have to have a y equals, and you have to have an x variable in there. And then you're going to plug some other numbers in with your y and your x. So there's some optional practice down here if you want to practice that before you do your Math Excel. Otherwise, your Math Excel is open on this topic today and due on Tuesday. Remember, you have to do that other practice from the other day that's due on Thursday. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, or we have our virtual chat between 10 and 12 today, Wednesday, the 22nd.